Hey guys, welcome to Speech Truth Sports. This is Trey
And
with,
this is Sparsh right here.
yeah, as you can see, Bertram is not here right now. Bert is on vacation, so it's just up to us to keep going on. The show must go on, they say.
Indeed.
So obviously with a lot of NBA news going on, obviously the NBA Finals and other things going on, but things are really starting to heat up on the other side of things, and I guess we're just gonna jump right into this. Ben Simmons is now on the trading block. The Sixers are officially exploring options to potentially trade Ben Simmons. And it's just really interesting because at one point they were so committed to him, and now they're looking for potential other options. And, this report came out earlier in the week. What do you think about this, Sparsh?
Yeah, this is some pretty big news, especially considering how much they invested into him and his contract as well, right? He signed that really big deal, and I think he's gonna go. I think he has like 4 years left into that. Um, See, the thing is, like with me, right? When we're looking at sort of the championship window for the Sixers, it's starting to get a bit shorter now, especially when you have like Joel Embiid and sort of his health, right? It's not as long as you would get from another player like Curry or Lillard, right? But like we had his season, like this was probably his best season of the NBA so far, and then he had a pretty crazy injury, with that meniscus tear, like in the cartilage, but he was still being able to go off. But when you have Simmons sort of as your point guard, and to see that it doesn't really go so well with Embiid, like the team doesn't really play as well as it shows on the paper when Embiid and Simmons are sort of on the court together. It like Embiid has been performing a lot better when Simmons is usually like off or just even having like an off performance. And then the same goes with Simmons as well. Like when Embiid is not playing and he's having the ball more, then Simmons is having the better performance as well. So like at this point, I'm just thinking, you just got to send him somewhere else and get him out of Philly so that he can thrive in another place.
Yeah, my big thing with Ben Simmons is it's just for me it's so strange. I remember watching him when he was at LSU, and he was a small forward, power forward that can play point guard. For him to just jump over to the point guard position in the NBA was always something kind of never settled well with me. I think Ben Simmons is a great small forward. Obviously, he still can't shoot, and that's a big struggle. But there was points in his career where he was able to shoot further than um, the paint. If you look back to him in summer league, he was hitting mid-range jumpers all over the court. Obviously, he didn't take any threes then, but still, it was still much more impressive than what he's been doing the past few years. And I don't know. I mean, they said he had a they think they well they were the reports that said he had a bad work ethic, and he didn't really want to push himself, and then he got babied around in Philadelphia. So I think just maybe a change of scenery for him would be really ideal. I think right now he's probably kicking himself, hoping and wishing he did work on his jumper more, because for him to get shipped out, it's gonna be rough for him. Because I think the teams that were interested in him were the Kings, the Pacers, the Raptors, Timberwolves, and I think there was one other team off the top
I
of my
think it
head.
was I think it was the Warriors as well. The Warriors were sort of were discussed, even if they weren't sort of discussed by like other sources. I know that was sort of discussed on ESPN. And yeah, just sort of going to what you say, right? Ben Simmons, he can shoot, right? And like there's been lots of footage of him actually shooting. It's just, like that hesitancy that he has over there, and sort of that culture that's in like the Philly locker room where they're like, oh, he doesn't need to shoot, kind of, sort of enabling that behavior, just allowing that to sort of go on. He needs to be somewhere else. And at this point, I don't think he should be playing point guard, especially considering how his play style has been uh these past few years. Like when you see like how he's been playing, he dishes it out to a player on the mid-range or the perimeter, and then he goes right under the dunker spot, right? The biggest problem with that was, for Simmons, like, I mean, he's a big guy, right? He's around like 6'11", right? He can rebound pretty well. He can easily get you double digit rebounds. But when you have Simmons there, it just ruins the spacing with Embiid, because now Embiid is put at a place where he's either taking some mid-range shot, right? Usually his mid-range shots are kind of like inconsistent here and there. He's always doing some sort of like one leg kind of shot, or even the three. I mean, credit to Embiid though, he's pretty good at shooting the three for his size. But when you compare what that to what Embiid is able to do in the paint, where like literally every person he's against is a literal mismatch, right? That's a matchup problem, but it's just not happening because Simmons is there. He's playing the point guard, but the way he moves off the ball, I mean, he practically doesn't really move off the ball because he just ends up going in the dunker spot. And his positions that he was playing earlier, like he could have him be some sort of power forward or even a center in another team, where if you have him playing sort of that position, right, you don't actually need to spend too much time to get him to work on sort of his jumpers and stuff, right? You can get him to be more of an in-paint presence guy. And I mean, he's got some really good like IQ, and he's got some really good ball handling as well, right? So if he gets a rebound somewhere in there, he can easily pass it out to somebody, right? He's got really good vision, and we cannot also forget, like, back when he was being drafted, he has some really high praise for his play style, right? Being compared to like players like Magic and LeBron, but he just hasn't been up to that. And I think being able to play in sort of a different position is something that would help Simmons a lot more. And you don't really need to get him to work too much on his shot. I think it's better to have him play a position that suits him, because that point guard position is just really not meant for him. I mean, he's a good passer and all, but he could be much better sort of as a center or a power forward.
Yeah, I agree 100%. My thing with him always is he's always, for me, a forward that could play point. He was never a point guard. He's not a true point guard. He should have never been in the position. That position, the point guard, most point guards nowadays, you have to have some ability to shoot, and he just doesn't have it. And, to have the ball in your hand so often and not be able to shoot, it's a liability for the team. And going back to what you were saying earlier, I think Ben Simmons being on the court with Embiid definitely hindered Embiid from being the best player he can be. Like you were saying, he definitely is best when he's near the post or in the post. He's a center that can stretch the floor, but he shouldn't be at the three at times, especially that often, as much as he took it at times. Simmons, it just kind of kills the whole flow. And, they're better when each other aren't on the floor. So, and obviously, if you had to choose between the two of them, it's simple. You got to go with Embiid. Yeah, I know he's not the most healthiest, but when he's healthy, he's far more productive. And if we remember, even in the playoffs, when there was in the second half of, don't remember which game it was top of my head, but when there were only two players that scored in the second half of the game, which was only Embiid and Seth Curry. You can't have that. And Simmons didn't even step up that much in that series in general. So if you just look at the performances and just look at it all, Simmons, between the two of them, Simmons just has to go. And nothing against him personally or like that, but his play style is just not suitable for the team's success if they want Embiid to be the centerpiece. And I think it's just, this was inevitable.
Yeah, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I believe it was the Hawks series. I think it was like game 4 or game 5, somewhere around there. But yeah, like those two, they're not utilized to their full potential when they are on the court together. Simmons can make the plays, but it's just the off-ball movement as well, right? That is also very terrible, right? And the best solution for this sort of trade, you get a point guard from this situation, right? You trade him to a team where they need some sort of big presence, like Golden State or even like the Raptors, where they could benefit from a bigger person inside the paint. And what the Sixers can get back is some sort of point guard that can really utilize the pick and roll. If you can have that sort of situation, that could really help a lot with Embiid, and that could help a lot with sort of the spacing and sort of the off-ball movement, so that Embiid is not always, being limited to, being stuck on the mid-range or having to take a shot from the perimeter and instead just be inside the paint where he can always sort of create a mismatch and have a really high percentage shot over there.
Yeah. I mean, for you, what do you think is the most ideal place for him?
I mean, I'm kind of biased because I'd love to see him on the Raptors, even though I was sort of like bashing him, like, you know, in the previous episodes. He would really help sort of with our team, you know, because we struggled a lot, especially on the rebounding end and even like the offensive rebounds. You know, if we have someone like Simmons there sort of as our sort of rim presence, then we could also take the pressure off of Siakam or an OG and, you know, have them take some other shots and stretch it out to the perimeter. But another great place that would benefit from him is probably Golden State. I think Golden State would really benefit from that, because, you know, when you have Steph and Clay, right, you know, you have those two guards, they can really shoot well from the perimeter. Then you have like Draymond also just, you know, kind of facilitating a lot of the playmaking. Steph is pretty good with the off-ball movement, right? You don't really have to worry about him too much. But, you know, I think if they can find a way to sort of like get Wiseman and sort of a deal for that, because, I mean, Wiseman, he's a good player, but I mean, he hasn't really had much playing time this season, and he's also suffered a bit from injuries. And I just don't really think he sort of fits in that championship window yet for the Golden State Warriors. So if there's some sort of way that they can get some, you know, him involved and try to get Simmons there, I think, you know, if Simmons actually gets to Golden State, I think that is probably like the best possibility for him. The other teams that were discussed, what were the other teams?
I want to say it was the Pacers, Timberwolves, Kings, Cavaliers, and the Raptors, like you mentioned.
Yeah, the Pacers, I'm not sure if that's going to happen now because they proposed a trade, you know, with Malcolm Brogdon, but that got declined. And I'm not really sure if the Kings are going to go well either, because there have been reports that the Kings are sort of hesitant to let go of De'Aaron Fox, right? So I'm not too sure, and I'm not really sure what you can do with really the Wolves either, because you already have sort of Cat there as your paint guy. So like, do you really need another sort of big over there? And then, you know, you're probably going to repeat that sort of same situation with Embiid again, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my thing is with the other teams is I don't think Simmons will have to go to those teams either, because they're just not in contention of anything. And with the Kings, I think the Kings would not be a horrible place for him. Well, for the Kings, it wouldn't be a bad trade for them. I think they can probably give up Buddy Hield and potentially Marvin Bagley. You know, they can have Bagley as a role player in Philadelphia, and then Buddy Hield can be one of their main shooters, because the team can always use shooters, of course, and consistent scorers. But I don't think he would want to oblige to that, because I don't think he wants to go to Sacramento in general, because what has Sacramento really done in the past like 20 years? But, you know, for me, I think the most ideal trade or most ideal place for him, I can really see him potentially even going to Portland. You know, they can trade away McCollum, and, you know, because they want an all-star caliber player. McCollum's not been an all-star, but he's definitely an all-star caliber player. If you put him on the East, he probably would have been a multi-time all-star, but he's on the West, of course.
It's just hard in the West with those guards, right? I mean, like, I mean, McCollum's there's just so much tough competition, and Portland's also a really heavily talked about destination as well, right?
Yeah, I think Portland's a good place for him, because I think they're still in contention to, as long as Dame is still there, they're in contention to always make the playoffs and make noise in the playoffs. He's an elite defender. The team can use defense. The front court's always been their biggest issue ever since LaMarcus Aldridge left. And, you know, I'm not saying Ben Simmons is LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm not saying that one bit, but I'm saying he brings defense. He can pass the ball. He can facilitate. He can be a post presence. The biggest issue with their bigs right now, they don't play defense. Nurkic, defensive liability. Enes Kanter is infamous for playing no defense. As good as those guys are offensively, I think Ben Simmons can do enough offensively, but he makes up for so much more defensively. So I think potentially making a trade there. I don't know if they want to give up McCollum. There was reports way earlier in the offseason, way earlier in the season, where potentially McCollum could be shipped away. But if I were the two teams, it's something I definitely talk about, because McCollum can bring a lot of scoring to the Sixers, and hopefully they'll never have a drought where there's only 2 players scoring in the second half if they have McCollum, a player like McCollum.
Yeah. The Sixers will also need to sort of like also speak with like Tobias Harris about like, getting him to sort of have another to get him to sort of step up more, because Ben's like his performances have also been really overshadowed a lot by Simmons' like blunder as well, right? So maybe if you can get Simmons out of that, out of Philly, then maybe you can also open room for more players like Tobias, right?
Yeah, because my thing with Tobias had he was very up and down. There were some games he played well, he'd get 20 points, and some games he just would get 10 or less points. And I'm not gonna be too hard on him because he's a good player, but no one ever expected him to be great. But I do kind of hope he can find some kind of consistency in more important moments and pivotal moments like the playoffs, of course. But just the Simmons trade situation just seems to. It seems like people think that he has no value, but he's an elite defender, and you really can't take that away. Defense is definitely something that's overlooked nowadays, and having a great defensive player like Simmons adds a lot of depth to teams, and it puts teams in better situations. So I'm thinking we'll have to just see what happens in the next few weeks, because
pretty much, man. Yeah, and I mean, this guy, he's a good player, man. He's a good player. Like he's what, 3 times All-Star already, and he's already have been in like contention for like defensive player of the year. Like this kid has some potential, right? We just got to find a better environment for him, and we all want him to succeed too, right? Maybe that'll also get him some more motivation as well.
Yeah. And on that note, it sounds like it's a good ending to this. We appreciate you guys for watching our videos and always, being there and supporting us. Obviously, you can follow our Instagram page at Speak True Sports. Obviously, you can follow our Twitter as well. You're already here. Like, comment, subscribe. We appreciate you guys. Trey out, and
this is Sparsh. Check out our website as well.